What is up, racing fans? You're watching the NASCAR Nitro Series on the HSL Diecast Racing channel. We are at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Indy 400 today. If you're here to watch small cars run down a track, you're in luck. This is what we do on the channel. If you're here for fantasy football advice, you may want to go somewhere else because I'm probably not going to make the playoffs. Well, anyway, being a 400 means it's only 4 laps in each segment. It'll be a nice quick race today. And starting lap 1 of segment 1 is our pole sitter, Sterling Marlin. Next to him is Martin Truex Jr., Johnny Benson and Bubba Wallace substituting for E. Marshall, and Ricky Craven with the rubber tires, who is in on points. And Sterling Marlin takes the lead on the first lap. Going down the backstretch, he spins out. Johnny Benson passes him. Martin Truex Jr. collects him, and they kind of slide off the track. Johnny Benson's going to lead lap 1. And we're going to have to consult with the judges to see what they rule on Martin Truex Jr. He's right on the borderline of being on or off the track. And it looks like Bubba Wallace is on his roof and out of the race. And he fell behind, hit the curb, and ended up on his roof coming out of turn 1. Now it's time for lap 2. Johnny Benson is going to lead him down with the rubber tires. Him and Sterling Marlin are neck and neck for the lead. Coming into turn 1, out of turn 1, Marlin has the edge. And Johnny Benson passes him coming out of turn 2. And it's been the Johnny Benson show the first half of this segment. Sterling Marlin will continue to line up in second. There's no change in the running order. And the gate is down. It looks like they're neck and neck on the split track portion heading into the first turn. Sterling Marlin gets the edge heading into it on the outside and passes Johnny Benson on the outside. Now he has a commanding lead for lap 3. Just flies past him, and now he's going to be starting the final lap in the catbird seat. And if you look closely, Martin Truex actually passed Johnny Benson for second. What a disastrous lap for Benson here. But he's going to be pushing Sterling Marlin. Like I said, the Benson car is a very heavy casting, gives him a huge push into turn 1. He's got a full car length lead, but he gets loose. He bounces off the guardrail and now has to block. He continues to grind against the edge of the track, and Martin Truex Jr. gets by him to win the segment. Johnny Benson comes back to get second place. And just like that, Sterling Marlin will be racing in the thirds race. Now it's time for segment 2, Kaz Grala and Ted Musgrave, a couple of underdogs on the front row. And Kulwicki doesn't waste any time getting under Ted Musgrave to knock him loose. It's a pretty tight pack going into turn 1, and Ryan Blaney's on his roof. It's like Blaney tries to use the other cars as a brake, and it backfires on him. He gets Jimmy caught behind him there. As Grala runs away with it and continues to run away with it after the finish line, Musgrave and Kulwicki are barely keeping up. As he'll lead the field down for lap 2, you have 2 underdogs near the bottom of the points list. Actually, this is Ted Musgrave making his debut. His first race he's made since the repairs were done on his car. Alan Kulwicki and Jimmy, both race winners this season, starting in the back, and it's been the Kaz Grala show this whole segment so far. He leads the second lap with an even greater margin of victory than the first lap, and Alan Kulwicki comes halfway off the track. We're going to have to consult with the judges, and yes, enough of his car stayed on there that he remains on the front row. And I'm not sure if any of these guys have anything for Kaz Grala so far in this segment. His biggest enemy has to be himself, while he throws a block on Alan Kulwicki to maintain the lead in lap 3. He enters turn 2 with a single car length lead and exits with a 3 car length lead. Alan Kulwicki gets by Musgrave for second. And you have the formerly dominant car of Jimmy, started the season off with multiple podiums and top 5s, just riding around in the back, as those repeated El Recos are just huge confidence killers. He's just been riding around the back playing it safe. And they're going down for the final lap. Kaz Grala gets a push from Ted Musgrave, and it's a battle for second place right now, which Kulwicki looks like he's winning so far. And Kaz Grala has really turned on the Jets these last 2 races. This will be back-to-back main event appearances for him. After being last in place in points for most of the first half of the season, season's really turning around for him. And now for segment 3, we have our last week's winner, Todd Bodine, starting on the pole next to our points leader, Ross Chastain. A couple of other back markers behind them. This will probably be a battle between Bodine and Chastain for first place here. But David Green muscles past Ross on the first lap, as Todd Bodine leads by several car lengths. Another driver that struggled early but has been starting to come on strong lately. Now for lap 2, the gate is down, and Oh my gosh, look at a dirty hit by Ross Chastain. Just pushes Todd Bodine on his side. He is flipping and recovers to put himself back on the track, but he will be starting this lap in last. David Green leads it and Chastain second. And Todd Bodine somehow lands on his wheels after that dirty hit. He'll be starting in fifth. Now he might be looking for a little bit of revenge. He's starting diagonal from Chastain, and oh, there goes Pete Hamilton. He's on his roof, completely self-inflicted. As you can see, D Driver coming off of the track. I swear that D's got to stand for dangerous or deadly or something. That's a double DNF. As Ross Chastain blocks the rest of the field to lead that lap. Get a closer look at the finish of this lap here, but you see D Driver on his roof in the meantime. That is a double DNF. As you see the finish line cam, Ross Chastain barely blocking David Green for the lead, and now there's just 3 cars left for the final lap, and Todd Bodine is in a great position to get his revenge, and so far the race is clean though. Throws a block on David Green, Chastain does, and it looks like Todd Bodine is either being the better man or just has his hands full with David Green and can't worry about that right now, but Ross Chastain to the main event, Todd Bodine to the thirds race. And finally, a segment without a DNF for David Green. Now for segment number 4, you have the segment of Misfit Toys. 2 total podiums among these 5 drivers. One of them making his debut after multiple DNQs. That's Swervin Irvan, and Matt Kenseth runs away with it. He started this segment in first, and Richard Petty is on his side again. He has been stacking DNFs, much like Bill Elliott, and also in this segment. And Kenseth, starting on the front row, is yet to finish a segment race, but he looked really good on that first lap, and there he goes on his roof. It's a big pile up, and Rusty Wallace takes himself out too. That is a double DNF. Rusty Wallace collected in the chaos with everybody else, but does not stay on his wheels like Irvan and Elliott do. That'll leave just 2 cars left for the final 2 laps of the segment. It'll be a 2-car drag race between Swervin Irvan in the winner's circle. This is actually the very first race for a winner's circle brand diecast, and Bill Elliott in the tried and true NASCAR late 90s car, which a lot of the top drivers like Sterling Marlin and Todd Bodine also use. And yeah, Elliott's probably going to win this just based on speed. 1 lap to go. He outran Irvan on that lap. And the gates are down. Irvan got quite a bit of pushback from the starting gate. And Bill Elliott's off to another hot start. He's got almost a car length lead over Irvan. Tries to throw a block. And Irvan, for his debut, is putting up one heck of a fight. They are slamming into each other. And it looks like Irvan used up all of his momentum to try and make Elliott make a mistake. But he doesn't, and it's Elliott to the main event and Irvan to the seconds race. And now it's time for the thirds and fourths race. A couple of big names in here. You have Jimmy, Sterling Marlin, Todd Bodine, all race winners. We have Ricky Craven, who's had a couple of top 5s and podiums. He's in the top 12 in points too. And Sterling Marlin is dominant on that first lap. He's angry about being in the thirds race. And he feels he has a much better car than Martin Truex Jr. did. And he wants to show him he's still got it and salvage as many points as he can. And now the gates down for lap 2 of the thirds and fourths race. Sterling Marlin and Todd Bodine, their teammates, they're neck and neck. Marlin gets the inside advantage. Musgrave throws a block on Jimmy for third place, and Marlin wins it by a car length and a half over his teammate. Jimmy pushes Ted Musgrave off the track, and he ends up on his roof, so he'll get last place for that event. And now it's time for the seconds race. Swervin Irvan leads the field to green based on his qualifying time after surviving the bloodbath that was segment 4. And it looks like this seconds race is not going to be much better. That's a double DNF. David Green and Sterling Marlin, almost like they're synchronized, take themselves out in the same corner. And if you look, that is David Green and Sterling Marlin, teammates. They took themselves out at exactly the same time. One was drafting on the back of the other. And I'd have to say that's got to be one of the most visually impressive DNFs I've ever seen. And now we have Swervin Irvan, the rookie, making his debut, leading the seconds race down on the final lap behind a race winner and another guy really high in the points in Johnny Benson. Much heavier castings, and The heavier cars just bully Swervin Irvan around, knock him onto his roof, and he collects Alan Kulwicki there, who was more of the aggressor in that wreck, and lets Johnny Benson pass for the win. And now Johnny Benson will be going to the main event. Mark D from Cut Rock Creek Racing picked him in the qualifying video. Let's see what he does, whether he can make this prediction come true. And you know what time it is. It is time for the main event. Kaz Grala, based on his qualifying speed, will be leading the field down. Ross Chastain moves from third to second. These two are flying away from the rest of the field, and Ross Chastain gets knocked over heading into turn 2, and it's a miracle he lands on his wheels. Martin Truex up for second. Johnny Benson in third. Bill Elliott in fourth. For the first lap, and the Melon Man, our points leader, will have a tough task cut out for him. Only 3 to go, and he is on the third row all by himself. Nobody to push him. And he helps push the rest of the field past Martin Truex Jr. Him and Johnny Benson are 2 of the heaviest cars in the field, and another near miss for Chastain. He's already got an enormous points lead, so I don't know why he used 2 of his 9 lives here to try and stay upright. It's already a good points day, but he somehow lands on his wheels again after flipping over. And Bill Elliott's just hanging out in the back. He's happy to be back in the main event. First time for him since the season opening Daytona 500. But it's been the Kaz Grala show. Kaz Grala's been unstoppable since his segment. He leads the field down to green and increases his lead in turn 2 and kind of gets a little squirrely before hitting the finish line. You can see kind of where I drew it. There's some sun glare right now, but that is the finish line, not the black bar later after it. So Kaz Grala will be leading the field down for the final lap, and it is all over for the outside lane. They got too much pushback from the gate to really make it competitive, and Martin Truex Jr., he's outside the top 12 in points. He drives off the trap trying to make an aggressive move on Bill Elliott. But it's Kaz Grala flying across the finish line and beats our points leader, Ross Chastain. This should put Kaz Grala into the top 12 in points. As you look at our podium, there's Chastain and Elliott, your second and third place finishers. And what a season turnaround for Kaz Grala. 2 races ago was tied for dead last in points, but now he's been into 2 main events in a row, just got his first career win, beat our points leader on speed, and everybody loves a good underdog story. That's definitely what we saw today as you see the rest of the race results. And only 6 DNFs in the initial segment racing, and half of those were in segment number 4. And now we're going to take a look at the points here. Ross Chastain has almost a 200-point lead over Sterling Marlin right now. And if you look further down the points list, that W jolts Kaz Grala from somewhere in the 20s all the way up to 9th at the expense of Rusty Wallace, who no longer has a guaranteed spot in the races. And E. Marshall doesn't lose much ground on the top 25 despite missing this race. And Martin Truex Jr. is on the up and up. He's within striking distance. And now take a look at the back markers. Not much other change there. Swervin Irvan, 7th place in his debut. And Ted Musgrave, 13th. Both of those drivers' original cars were disqualified early in the season after multiple qualifying DNFs. And that wraps things up for the Indy 400. Hit that like button and leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching, guys. We'll see you on the track.